Hey everybody, welcome back to Build a Website from Scratch with HTML and CSS. This video is called Borders. In this lecture, we're going to learn about CSS borders and how we can add them to our websites. So in your Lesson 7 folder, create a new HTML file called borders.html. And in your borders.html file, add your doc type basic page structure with the title of borders. Make sure to link up your style sheet, styles.css that we've already created here in our directory, and let's get started. Let's start by adding a level 1 heading and just say CSS borders. And let's just add some code here, some HTML that we can work with our CSS. So let's add a div, give it the ID of box-1 and the class of border-box. So we haven't done this before, I don't think. You can add classes and IDs at the same time. You just have to separate them here. They're separate attributes. And it is also worth noting, we're not going to do it in this lecture, but you can add multiple classes. If I wanted to say box and big box, I can add lots of classes here as long as you separate them with a space. IDs, however, you can only add one ID between the strings, between these two double quotes. But classes, you can add more than one. All right, so in here, I'm just going to say box with thin solid border. And I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste it 7 more times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. And let's change the IDs, obviously. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I actually need to add one more. This will be 8. And let's just change the text so that they reflect what they actually will be. So this will be box with thin dashed border. This will be box with thin dotted border, double border. And then now we're going to do solid border, but it's going to be thick solid border, a thick dashed border, a thick dotted border, and a thick double border. So right now this is all just content. If I looked at it in the browser, this is just content. It doesn't actually show me borders by typing that in the HTML. It doesn't actually turn this into a box with borders, but I just wanted to have this so that within the box that we will be styling, you can see the content within it and what the border looks like around it, and then it's just more descriptive, just so you can see for demonstration purposes. Okay. So let's go to our styles.css, and at the bottom I'm going to add a comment and say borders so we know where our border styles are for this demonstration. And border box, I'm going to select the class of border box and say background EE margin 0020, so 20 pixels on the bottom, nothing everywhere else. Padding 20 pixels, so 20 pixels on top right, bottom, and left. And width, I want it to be 300 pixels wide. That's how wide I want the box to be. So let's save it and check it out. So you can see I've created a box here. Each of them have boxes because they all have the class of border box and they all have the same styles. But I want each of the individual ones to have their own styles or borders. So let's start by doing that. Let's begin with box-1. Let's say border. And I want it to be a solid border, 1 pixel, so thin, very thin border, it's just 1 pixel, and black. So it's going to be a black, solid 1 pixel border. Let's just check it out. There you go, solid 1 pixel and black. This is a box with a thin, solid border. Just so you could see, it's descriptive so you can see how this works. And let's go back to our styles, and let's add box-2. Border, dashed, 1 pixel, black. So a dashed border, 1 pixel and black. 1 pixel dashed border, so it's a thin dashed border. Box 3. This will be border, dotted, 1 pixel black. Now keep in mind you can change these to any color. This could be white, this could be green, this could be any hexadecimal code, it could be an RGB code for your color. But I'm just putting black for demo purposes. So dotted 1 pixel black, let's give it a look. Dotted 1 pixel black. Box 4. Double, border, double, 3 pixels black. Now the reason why I put 3 pixels is because that's the minimum size that the double border can be, so that you can see there's a double border. So I'll show you what it looks like. So this is black double 3 pixel border. So it's 3 pixels because it equals 3 pixels. One part of the border is 1 pixel, the top one. The space in between is 1 pixel, and the bottom border, or the second border, is 1 pixel. So that equals 3 pixels. If I were to put anything less, say 1 pixel, it's not, you can't have a double border because a border takes up 1 pixel itself. And if you're having 2 borders, that's 2 pixels. And if you want a space between the double border so you can see, then that has to be minimum of 3 pixels. So 1 and 2 pixels doesn't work for double borders. I'll show you 2 pixels. It's just a thick border. So there's 2 borders here, but you can't see in between them. So 3 is the minimum that you can do. All right, moving on. Box 5. Border, solid, 4 pixels, black. So this is going to be a thick solid border. There it is. Next one, box 6. It's going to be border, dashed, 4 pixels, black. So it's just a thick dashed border. Next up, we have our box 7. This will be border, dotted, 4 pixels, black. Save it and check it out. There you go. There's your dotted 4 pixel black border. And last but not least, actually technically double borders aren't very commonly used, so maybe it is last and least. Border, double, 6 pixels black. Now I chose 6 pixels because I want it to be a thick border. 3 pixels is the minimum that you could do, so I just thought I would make it larger and put 6 pixels. I could have put 7, 8, 9, 10, or whatever. So let's check it out. There's our thick double border. So here we go. We have our thin solid border, thin dashed, thin dotted, thin double, thick solid, thick dashed, thick dotted, and thick double. Say all that 10 times fast. And now I'm just going to add a little bit of extra HTML in here just so we can see in the boxes what we had to add in CSS to make these borders. And it's an HTML tag that you haven't used with me yet, and it's called code. And what goes in here, well, I hope you guessed it, it's code. So I'm going to put border, solid, 1 pixel, black. So now this is just the CSS. It's not going to do anything in the CSS. It's simply displaying HTML with a code tag wrapped around it, which is going to make the HTML look like it's displaying code. It's just a way of displaying code in HTML. So I'll show you what that looks like. So here it is. Here's the code. You can see it looks like code. It has kind of the monospace type font family, and it looks different than the default body font family we put here, but it doesn't look right to me. It's kind of mashed up against the side of the text here, and I want it to be different. I want it to look like code more specifically. The reason why it's jammed up in the same line as the paragraph or just the text here is because code is by default an inline element, and we haven't really covered inline and block elements yet. We will in an upcoming lecture, but basically it's inline. It's going to be on the same line as the text. It doesn't take a whole width of space, but we want to change that so the code blocks will be block elements so that they take up an entire width, an entire line, rather than just sitting beside everything else. So let's go to our styles, and I'm just going to put up above here, above the borders, I'm just going to say code, display block. I want the color to be E96C28, background white, padding 5 pixels. So this is just going to clean it up a little bit. So let's check it out. There we go. Border solid 1 pixel black. This is just displaying the code a little bit nicer. And I'm just going to add each of these code snippets in each of these boxes so we can see the CSS we had to do to create this border. So let's just go back to our HTML and do that. Copy and paste the code block and just change it so that it reflects what the box is showing in CSS. So this is dashed 1 pixel black. This is dotted 1 pixel black. This is double and 3 pixels black. This one is solid 4 pixels black. This one is dashed 4 pixels black. Box 7 is dotted 4 pixels black. And the last one is double 6 pixels black. Save it, check it out. And so there are your CSS borders with all of the code snippets within them, so you could see the CSS you needed to do to create these borders. So those are your CSS borders. Those are pretty much what mostly all the basics you need to know for borders. You can play around with the sizes, the styles, and the colors to come up with different borders and different looks and styles for your websites. And good job so far. We'll see you in the next lecture.